In Ukraine, the ongoing war against Russia has led to the destruction of many schools in frontline cities and has left children without a structured environment in which they can learn. But a new initiative has now seen more than 2,000 kids in the eastern city of Kharkiv return to classrooms in what is now the safest place possible, its metro stations.
The bell signals the start of another day. Everything here is as you'd expect. Children, exercise books, whiteboard and teacher. But there is one key difference. This school is subterranean, built within the Kharkiv metro. Russian missiles could strike this city at a moment's notice, so it's better for the children to learn below ground.
It's safer in the subway because there are explosions outside and our school could be destroyed.
These first graders have 3 lessons in the metro station today, followed by 2 more at home online. Once they've left, other classes take their place. This rotation gives as many children as possible the opportunity to learn in a classroom.
Of course, the children and we teachers miss normal education very much. By normal, I mean face-to-face communication. So when the opportunity arose to learn here, we were all very happy, children, parents and teachers alike.
Olena says that it felt strange to teach her at first, but she soon got used to it.
There are many sounds down here besides the trains, but we don't react to those anymore. They don't bother us anymore.
Schools have now been built within 5 of Kharkiv's metro stations, adapted from what were once technical rooms and passages. Ventilation and video cameras have been installed throughout, while teachers are helped by classroom assistants, psychologists and administrators.
This was pretty new for all of us, so yes, it had been difficult at times. But there are no unsolvable problems. There is only unwillingness to solve them. We had the desire to create all of this.
More than 2,200 students attend these metro schools, but there is still not enough space for everyone. More than 100 schools in Kharkiv have been damaged by shelling, many beyond repair. New underground schools are being built across Kharkiv to accommodate more students, but the children dream of a time when attending such facilities will no longer be necessary.
I would like to go back to school, a normal school. It's more fun there than here.
For now at least, these metro schools are giving children a small taste of the structure they once took for granted.
Let's bring in our correspondent in Ukraine, Nick Connolly. Nick, so we have kids going to school in metro stations there. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the situation is like in Kharkiv?
Kharkiv, as Ukraine's second biggest city, a city of over 1 million people before this war, is basically on the front line. It is about 30 to 40 kilometers from the Russian border. What that means is that when Russia launches ballistic missiles against Kharkiv, they hear the bang before they hear the air raid warning. It is so fast and so close that basically preparing for an attack is impossible. And that's why, as you saw in that report, having the school underground is the norm. You don't have time to go down into a bomb shelter. You basically do your teaching underground because that is the easiest and the best way to protect kids and give them a realistic chance of getting a normal education. We had some pretty major attacks on Kharkiv last week when Russia took out the main power stations, and right now you have hundreds of thousands of people without power, only certain parts of the city getting power for a couple of hours at a time at best. But this really is also a situation that is developing. Previously, Kharkiv was able to protect itself better because Western air defense systems were being supplied in the amounts and the quantities needed. Now, as we've seen US funding, also the Europeans, being slow to produce new supplies, that Ukraine's ability to take out those Russian missiles is getting worse, and so the damage is getting bigger. So there's a real worry there that even the people who've stayed in Kharkiv, who've basically sat out 2 years of war, that life for them is going to become a whole lot harder before it gets any better.
And Nick, I'd like to take a look at Ukraine's response under these circumstances. We have a regional governor saying Russia intercepted 18 airborne targets over the Belgorod region. How effective are these air attacks?
Well, it's interesting because Belgorod is basically the neighbouring city to Kharkiv. It's about 70 kilometres down the road. And for most of this war, basically Belgorod was more or less unaffected, and Russians living there could basically convince themselves that this war was happening in Ukraine, that it didn't affect them. But in recent months, we've seen Ukraine stepping up its attacks on villages just across the border, but also against Belgorod city. Also now more recently attacks on targets far beyond the front lines and beyond the border, Russian oil facilities near St. Petersburg and Moscow. I think there are different elements here. Firstly, I think it's important for Ukraine to basically bring that message to Russians that this is not something that doesn't affect them, that they are paying a price for their government's war on Ukraine. That's the first thing. Secondly, there's a military component. This obviously forces Russia to take air defense systems to protect cities like Belgorod and away from the front lines. Previously, those systems could have protected Russian troops in Ukraine, so that's the second thing. And then I think thirdly, I think the major thing in all of this is it's the economic impact. The Ukrainian government right now wants to deprive Russia of its oil income, and so we've seen these attacks on oil refineries, on oil export terminals. There has been a bit of kind of interesting speculation that the US may be telling Ukraine to stop doing this because they fear rising oil prices worldwide if those Russian exports are curtailed, and that could hurt Biden's chance of re-election. But certainly for now, Ukraine is trying to bring this war to Russians on their doorsteps to remind them that this is something that isn't just going all one way.
Nick, thank you. That is DW's correspondent Nick Connolly reporting from Kyiv.